So let's start off with the elephant in the room. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, we have known for some time that the Doctor Strange sequel will focus on the multiverse. I mean, it's literally in the name. And it had been theorized that WandaVision would lead to the multiverse, as Wanda has been confirmed to be making an appearance in the movie. Of course, though, it was Loki that led to the introduction of the multiverse after Sylvie killed He Who Remains, causing all-out chaos. Or should we say madness? It has been confirmed that Tom Hiddleston's Loki will be appearing in the sequel, suggesting that the movie's plot will be a direct response to the story arc in Loki. With the movie set to drop in March of 2022 and Loki Season 2 likely to appear after that, what we can expect from Season 2 really depends on how much is addressed in Doctor Strange 2. But anyway, let's go on to predicting what we anticipate to see, as there are still some cliffhangers from Season 1 that will likely be addressed. Take, for example, Judge Renslayer, who is off to search for the actual truth. But where, and what, and maybe when is that truth exactly? And what was the information provided to her by Miss Minutes?
Who?
Well, seeing as she was dead set on finding the one who created the TVA to find out their motive, and Miss Minutes was working with He Who Remains, aka Kang, she might be heading there. But seeing as he's dead, she'll have little luck. Now, seeing as time has changed, it is likely she's on her way to meet a brand new Kang variant. You see, in the comics, Renslayer is Kang's right-hand woman and lover, so it would not be surprising to see her making her way to his side. Perhaps she even made a trip to the 31st century to find him. Or maybe it's something else entirely, and Miss Minutes gave her information on how to prevent Kang the Conqueror? Or, seeing as the rest of the TVA are seemingly unaware of the truth, maybe she'll team up with Loki to inform the TVA of the dictator who's really pulling their strings. Either way, Renslayer will likely be a huge part of Season 2. Now, speaking of the future, what exactly does the future hold for them? And where are they located in the universe? Originally, Mobius and Hunter B-15 were aware of the truth behind the organization and sought to bring them down. But at the very end of the finale, we saw a new TVA who were totally unaware of everything that had just transpired in the series, and Mobius didn't even know who his best bud Loki was.
What are you talking about? Who are you? What's your name?
Let's just hope he still likes jet skis. Furthermore, the TVA were also ruled by a Kang variant, judging by the statue of him right behind them. In a way, it's kind of like the show The Good Place, which, quick spoiler warning for The Good Place, is actually the bad place. And after they reset at the end of Season 1, the main crew are unaware that they were actually in the bad place.
Mother-forking shirtball.
Loki Season 2 could show Loki trying to convince the TVA that Kang isn't all that he's cracked up to be, tell them once again that they're variants, and try to take the organization down from within once more. But one of the biggest questions that remains is what will happen to Sylvie? When offered the chance to rule the TVA alongside her variant / kinda creepy when you think about it love interest Loki, she turned it down, instead blinded by rage and getting vengeance. But seeing the chaos she caused, will she quickly regret her decision? Will she try to rectify the timeline? Or will she hunt down other variants of Kang? Perhaps she'll even harness the power of Alioth. But most importantly, what will happen between her and Loki? Seeing as they left it on a little bit of an awkward note, kissing him and then pushing him through a portal while she wreaked havoc throughout time and space, will the two of them try and reconcile? Perhaps they too, maybe with their potential new weapon Alioth, will hunt down Kang variants. Anyway, the whole relationship between the two is straight out of Game of Thrones, but, the things we do for love. One of the most likely aspects of a Loki Season 2 is that we will see the return of the Loki variants, as it's unlikely that they'll be left alone in the void for all eternity. Now, while classic Loki seemingly died, there is a big chance that his death was his greatest projection yet.
Oh, yes.
I mean, his whole backstory was kind of setting that up, and Richard E. Grant even, albeit jokingly, pitched a classic Loki and Alligator Loki spin-off series, which, that kind of has to be made, right? So, we have likely not seen the last of them. However, the most likely to return is Kid Loki, who may be destined to be in the Young Avengers someday. There are also probably a whole host of other Loki variants waiting to make their appearance as well.
Hello.
Speaking of variants, will we see more Kang variants in Loki?
Me.
With Kang the Conqueror set to be the villain of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania and possibly beyond, we will likely see a number of iterations of Kang. But just how many will we see, and how many of these will show up in Loki?
Come on in.
As I suggested earlier, maybe the Lokis will end up hunting Kangs in Season 2, but that is obviously speculation. With a Kang variant now in charge of the TVA, it is likely that we will at least see one Kang variant in the second season. And let's face it, Majors and his apple were so darn brilliant, more Kang is always good. But again, this depends on the release of Season 2 and what will be covered in other MCU projects, but we won't be surprised to see Majors again in Loki. Now, okay, this next part, pure speculation, absolutely no proof, nothing's pointing toward this, but just imagine if Season 2 took the opportunity to introduce another major villain, Galactus. Highly unlikely, but still a tasty thought.
Too much power, too much to consume.
Now, we already mentioned The Good Place, and there are some similarities between the both of them. I mean, Eugene Cordero is in both, for example.
What's a fish?
But what if Loki Season 2 follows a similar trajectory as The Good Place? Perhaps the new season will focus on Loki and his crew putting out a number of universal fires and answering some of life's greatest questions, like whether or not the sacred timeline should be restored. Perhaps they'll even make their own Good Place for all the variants pruned from the main timelines, turning the TVA headquarters into a modern utopia. Hey, you never know. And finally, we mentioned Loki and Kang variants, but what if the second season of Loki focused on another variant? Thor. Now, a Thor in frog form, who was apparently even voiced by Chris Hemsworth, has already been seen in Season 1, but what if we saw even more Gods of Thunder? Maybe Luke Hemsworth could play real Thor this time as opposed to fake Thor. Or even more meta, have Tom Hiddleston as Thor.
There it is.
Or maybe we'll see more Frog Thor, or maybe we'll even see Thory? Or should that be Loki? Whatever, the opportunities are endless.